And then this is what happens. Jesus takes the disciples up to the northernmost part of Israel, Caesarea Philippi. It's way north of Israel, right on the Israel-Syria border. And he takes them up there and he asks them a question. Look at verse number 27. And Jesus went out with his disciples to the villages of Caesarea Philippi, and on the way he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" And they told him John the Baptist, others said Elijah, and others one of the prophets. That's great. Listen to what Jesus now says. But who do you say that I am? What do you say, Jesus? Seriously. Because how you answer that will determine how you live. What did Peter do? Anybody want to read it for me? What did Peter do? What did Peter say? You are the Christ. Or some say you're the Messiah. How do you want to look at it? Yeah, that's what Peter said. And you know what that answer reminds me of? When I was in 8th grade confirmation, St. Peter's Lutheran Church, East Detroit, Michigan, standing in front of Pastor Bennett. This is those these were in the dark ages. You guys are what? Stand in front of Pastor Bennett at St. Peter's like this. His desk was here. And we had to go up like this. Anybody do that? Nobody? Oh, a few of you did. Oh, Lord have mercy. And then if you got one word wrong, this is what happened. Peter's answer was like mine in confirmation. Could get the right answer, but had no idea what it meant. When Peter said, "You're the Christ, or you're the Messiah," Peter had no idea what it meant. See, when Peter was looking for, and the rest of the 12 disciples, is they were looking for this great king who would come in and rule, and finally give the Israelites, the Jews, the rightful place in the world history that they deserved, to rule the world. The Gentiles would be destroyed, and all the wealth of the world would come in there, and they would be powerful and important people. And Jesus says, "No, you're wrong." Listen to what Jesus says. He says the following. And he began to teach them in verse 31 that the Son of Man must suffer many things, be rejected by the elders and the chief priests and the scribes, and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. And he said this quite plain. Oh, no, Messiahs don't what? They don't die. They rule. And Jesus said what? No, I'm going to suffer. I'm going to be rejected by all the religious leaders, and they're going to kill me. Like something's going to happen. 3 days later, I'm going to what? I'll go. Peter then did something interesting. Greg, can I use you as an illustration? Sure. I was going to have Noel come up here, but he's too far away. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. You want to be Jesus or Peter? I'd rather have you be Jesus because Peter's going to get the... So imagine Jesus right here. What do you think, Cindy? You okay? Yeah. Now, Jesus says, I say to him, I say, "You're the Christ! You're the Messiah!" And he says, "No, I'm going to suffer, die, and rise again," right? This is what happens. I take Jesus and I put him like this. You're all the disciples. And then I start reading in the right. Messiahs don't die. They come to rule and live. And they come to serve and lead the world. And you're looking at me going, "You're And this is what you do, Jesus. You turn around and he says, "Get behind me, Satan. You have your mind on the things of men, not on the things of God." What he's just called Peter, what he's just called me? Satan. Why? In what way? You're right, but what else? You're right. You see, Peter and the rest of us out here, good man, right? Tell Cindy. Cindy, he's a big guy. He is. He's a sweetheart. But what did Jesus just do? He just said that you have your mind on 4 things that men and women seek. I call them the 4 P's. Power, position, profit, and pleasure. We can call that today. Please don't get mad at me, or if you do, I'll be gone by noon. We call that today the American dream. Jesus says, "You want to follow me? You really want to follow me? Then deny what? Deny yourself. Take up your cross and follow me." Oh. I was on your cell phone as well. I love it. I go, I'll take pepperoni on mine. I'm just having fun with it. You know what? We were at a conference. You'll love this one. We were at a conference and and we're with a bunch of preachers. You know, preachers are amazing. They really are. They're the guys up there presenting in the phone spot. They're all, okay, and they're walking out like this. And it's hilarious. One phone went off like this, and here's what the presenter says: "If that's my wife, tell her I'll be home after dinner." So anyway, my cell phone does that too. You ever sit, one day I had my cell phone in my pocket on vibrate, you know, and I'm in a big meeting and I'm talking, and I'm going, oh. This is not good. Shake it away out there. Or I was like, oh yeah. Jesus says, you want to follow me? Deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. And he says, and what would it profit you to gain the whole world? What would it profit you to gain the whole world and you lose your life? But boy, doesn't power, position, profit, and pleasure Angus? Huh? Come on, doesn't it? Oh yeah. Does me anyway. I keep saying, I wish I was a Joel Osteen. Preaches to 20-some thousand people. He drives around and he lives in mansions. Wouldn't that be slick? Yeah, you're not going to be laughing here. Right, I'm losing it up here. So anyway, what happens next? Chapter 9. Jesus is walking down the road. Come with me to chapter 9, verse 30. Chapter 9, verse 30, I've got 5 minutes. Chapter 9, verse 30. And it says the following. And they came to Capernaum, and when Jesus was in the house, he asked them, what were you discussing on the way? But they were silent, for on the way they argued with one another about who was the what? Who was the greatest? Who was most important? Who is most important in this bunch? And then what does he do? But they kept silent, for on the way they argued with one another about who was the greatest. And Jesus sat down and called the 12, and he said to them, if anyone would be first, he must be last of all and servant of all. Not only to follow him are we to deny ourselves, take up our cross and follow him, but we're also to understand what it is to be the servant of all. They're on their way to Jerusalem. On their way to Jerusalem, chapter 10. On their way to Jerusalem, chapter 10, verse 32. They were on the road going up to Jerusalem, and Jesus was walking ahead of them. And they were amazed at those who followed, who were afraid. And taking the 12 again, he began to tell them what was he will rise again. 3 times. In 8, 9, and 10, he tells about his suffering, his death, and his resurrection. All very plainly. The disciples are having a hard time. First, he said, if you want to follow me, deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. Second, he says, you must learn to be a servant of all. Then after this one, this is what occurred. James and John, 2 disciples, went up to Jesus and said, when the other 10 weren't around, they said, well, when you come to Jerusalem and you set up your kingdom, could one of us be Secretary of State and the other Secretary of Defense? That's what they're asking. Can one sit your right and the other at your left? And Jesus says, you know what you're asking? Oh, yes, we do. He says, can you be baptized with the baptism I'm baptized with? And they said, yes, we can. And Jesus says, yes, you will. And you know what that baptism was? Yeah. Are you willing to die for Jesus? Are you willing to deny self? Are we willing to be servant of all? And are we willing to die for Jesus? Yes or no? Well, that's tough, isn't it? And then the most incredible thing happens. He goes into Jerusalem. He is confronted by all the religious leaders. And finally, in chapter 14, they arrest him. By 15, he's on the cross and he's crucified. By the end of chapter 15, he's what? What happens by the end of chapter 15 and what? He's what? I can't hear. By the end of 15, he's dead. By the end of 15. Unbeknownst to everyone, something incredible took place. Remember these words? Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. Remember those words? And it says what? My God, what? At that moment, Jesus pays your price and mine for sin. On the cross alive, he suffers the torments of hell. So you and I will never have. And God the Father says this. For his sin. For his sin. I declare all of you righteous for his sake. And that to prove it. To prove it. 3 days later. The women go to the tomb, right? To bring the body of the burial. And what question are they asking? Who's going to roll the what? They get to the stones roll away. The stone wasn't rolled away to let him out. The stone was rolled away to let us in. Because he's not Lord. He is risen. You see? You see it clearly? God for you. And for every man and woman on this planet. Oh, I love that gospel. I love that gospel. Because it takes a poor, miserable sinner like me and